They're massive. The ratings were huge. Compared to what?
Compared to a lot of high-profile men's sporting events, much better than some men's sports out there. Women's basketball is on a heater right now. There's no denying that. And it's not just Caitlin Clark. I think Caitlin Clark is the biggest catalyst for all of the success in the ratings. But it's not just Caitlin Clark. There's other examples of UConn and USC having a huge number that would have been higher than any national championship game.
Which
in the
followed
past.
the game, right?
Well,
followed Iowa?
That was the lead-in, yeah, Iowa, LSU. So Iowa, LSU outrated the following events. Okay, with 12.5 million viewers on Monday night. The 2023 NBA Finals, the 2023 World Series, the 2023 Orange Bowl, the 2023 Big Ten Championship, 2023 Cotton Bowl, Thursday Night Football on a streamer, every college football regular season game other than the Ohio State-Michigan game, every NHL game, every MLS game. Caitlin Clark mania is a real, tangible thing. And when you mix that in with the rivalry with Angel Reese, you've got a captivated audience. And that's what every sport wants. And women's basketball has it right now. They have it in spades. It's incredible to watch the success and the popularity of women's basketball in this moment. Something we've talked a lot about on this show is how do you take this momentum in this moment and catapult that into future success that is sustainable? And I do think there's a way to do it. It's going to take some investment, and it's going to take people being bought into whoever the next Caitlin Clark is, even if that player isn't quite as good as Caitlin Clark. How does Caitlin Clark mania become the 1999 Women's World Cup of women's basketball? And what I mean by that is when Brandi Chastain ripped off her shirt, exposing that sports bra, and scoring on the penalty kick to win the World Cup for the United States, that sparked a revolution in girls soccer across the country. It sparked a revolution for the U.S. women's national team, and ratings were skyrocketing for years and years. It really launched a generation of support and success, both on television and with young women playing soccer in the United States. I'm not treating this like, women's basketball or girls basketball is something new in America, but is this something that is so big now that it spawns something even bigger than what we've seen in women's basketball? It's going to take some very smart schools with the resources to properly invest in the game that sees this growth in TV ratings, growth in attendance, and says, we can capitalize on this. This is a growth market. This is something that has not reached its peak yet, and we can get in now and be very successful in women's basketball. It's going to take some visionaries when it comes to that. I also, in the back of my mind, keep thinking, is this a one-for-one type thing? Are we witnessing a glimpse of a moment in time where women's basketball is having their moment, and it's only going to go down from here? There's no way it continues to climb. There's no way. It's plateaued, and it's going to be on its way back down. I think the answer to that, Hutton, in a lot of ways is going to come down to how networks treat it, how individual programs treat it, and just the general interest of the sporting public to say how much are they going to care once Caitlin Clark moves on to the WNBA.
Well, we know ESPN and ABC will treat the WNBA that way. Same for women's basketball. But consider Caitlin Clark's headed to the WNBA. Their record, I believe, for the regular season is somewhere around 500,000 viewers.
Yeah.
That with the Indiana Fever next year, that will rise. Also, consider this. Angel Reese is declared for the WNBA draft. So you have that dichotomy also following into the WNBA. They're also negotiating or considering negotiating their own media rights deal outside of the NBA platform, the NBA umbrella. And the timing could not be more perfect for that league. As far as college is concerned, UConn has some seniors that are moving on. The big names are playing in their final games right now. Does that carry over to next year? What has happened here has been very organic. Nothing's been forced. So I can't sit here and say there's no way you can script what they've seen. And if they try to do that, the manufactured hype doesn't appeal as much as the real controversy, the talk, the discussion, the reaction. And as much as we like the competition, I mean, the result this past week, this past Monday, with between Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and who won versus the rematch of the national championship game, I mean, all of that was the appeal of why we saw the massive climb up to the overnight ratings that broke records and shattered them. I tend to think, like you, it's going down, but can you maintain a different bar? The bar has been set much higher than anyone expected. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and many leave the sport better off as they go to the pro level. They're going to continue to raise the bar for the WNBA. And the question I have would be, do we see someone else grab the brass ring? Or is it a appointed storyline, manufactured clickbait storylines that I don't think many will continue to tune into on a regular basis? What happened here was appointment viewing. There were people that were specifically going home on Monday to watch the game, not just scrolling through and seeing Iowa and being like, oh, Caitlin Clark plays for Iowa. I've heard about this. Let me see this. That doesn't happen on a routine basis.
You and I were two of those people, right?
Yeah, and I haven't done that. I have never done that.
Yeah,
never done that, and I did. And it was because of, again, the storyline that led up to that rematch. And it's the reason why we're leading shows with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. We did last year during the tournament. We're doing it now because there's genuine interest. Is there interest beyond the individual? And I think it's a lot like I would compare it to the NBA. The NBA, no one truly is just a fan of certain teams, unless you're in the market, right? Like a diehard. You're a fan of the individual players, the personalities, the heroes and the villains. You've got to have both to have the huge climb. And you have to have people that are willing to embrace that, players that are willing to embrace those roles. Women's basketball has that right now, especially with two players. And now the WNBA is about to inherit that. So college basketball's loss will be the WNBA's game. And can they capitalize on it? Because it's being handed to them on a silver platter.
Yeah, and I brought up the $65 million, I think it is, that ESPN pays to the NCAA for the women's tournament rights.
Yeah.
It's part of a $110 million annual package for 40 different NCAA championships, women and men's championships, but the biggest chunk of that is what they pay for the women's tournament.
And it's everything but the men's tournament, right?
That investment is looking a lot smarter right now. And before, I would say, man, you're almost subsidizing some of these sports by offering that much money for it because it's not of that much value. It's very valuable right now. So it's two sides of this coin. Can the WNBA capitalize on Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese mania, led by Caitlin Clark for sure, but can they capitalize on it? Also, can the women's game sustain? Can they keep people interested in the sport? Are they going to go now to the next player? Is, Paige Becker's one that we're going to pay attention to, who may also be entering the WNBA draft. But you get my point. Yeah. Is there going to be another Caitlin Clark that steps in? It doesn't have to be the most high-profile of programs. Caitlin Clark showed that.
Does not.
She didn't go to UConn. She's not at South Carolina. She's not at one of these high-profile, Baylor even, LSU. She went to Iowa, and now they're in the Final Four. They were played for a national title last year. What is the next storyline to keep people hanging on? For years, it was Gino Auriemma versus Pat Summitt was a big storyline in the rivalry in women's college basketball. Now it's Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Both of them are moving on. WNBA inherits that. What's college basketball going to do?
Well, I think
who's going to be the next superstar?
I think two things come to mind. We've seen great players in women's hoops through the years.
Yes.
There will always be those great players.
A ton of them have been at
UConn, and
They're
that's my
hard
second point.
Separate, yeah.
Can you have quality of play pair up with that? It took a couple of seasons for Caitlin Clark to become the national name, right? But we've seen the national brands of everyone from Diana Taurasi to Rebecca Lobo, Sue Bird, others that have been through. Shamika Holtzclaw comes to mind. There are those individual players that rise up to the top and become the face of the sport. But the difference with Caitlin Clark was the records that she was setting and the style of play.
Yeah.
The style of play compared to the style of play for UConn domination, with all the players on the same team. I think that's a big part of it too. And that takes time. When you tune in, are you captivated to keep watching?
Yeah, Juju Watkins is the one everybody's going to hear about. She had 29 points in a 7-point loss to UConn. She's at USC, and she's a freshman stud, a sensational player. Maybe she steps into that Caitlin Clark role for a bit.
I will say there would be an easier way to say yes to every question if Angel Reese were staying in college basketball, because she would provide the podium and platform of whether or not she wants to admit it while she's crying after the loss or not. She has embraced the villain role. She said it herself. The team has said that motivated them. They would continue to do that with Kim Mulkey behind them. And then there would be someone else that would step up and automatically be the anti-whatever you're rooting against. You would be rooting for someone, right? There would be that automatic connection. With her going to the WNBA, I mean, that's fantastic, because she's going to her platform is going to continue to be there too, and it's only going to help those that have followed Caitlin Clark to follow. You're familiar with them, there's so many players, like the highest paid player in the WNBA, you can't even name off the top of your head because you're not familiar with the players in the league.
We have very few shared experiences anymore with anything, where everyone is tuning into something at the same time. I felt a shared experience watching that game the other night that you don't often get with anything anymore, right? Yep. I mean, live network TV now, or live TV, is live sports or news for the most part. Shows like ours, it's digital, right? It's on YouTube. It's wherever you can find our show. It's piecemealed together in a very different way than it has been in the past. We just watched an event on Monday night in women's basketball that outrated the NBA Finals and the World Series. Now, think if I told you in the 1960s that a women's basketball game, not the national championship game, an Elite Eight game, would have more American viewers than every World Series game. You would think I was absolutely insane. And that's where we are because of Caitlin Clark and, to an extent, Angel Reese as the rival to Caitlin Clark. It's remarkable. It really is. It's bigger than Saturday at the Masters. Well, I think Sunday at the Masters is a little bit better, but Saturday rounds the Masters, that game on a Monday night outrated that event. It's incredible to think about.
And they have the audience, and they have the sporting world tuned into them. The World Series, it's gone by the wayside, unfortunately, to college football and college and the NFL. The WNBA has to get one thing right. 2 games of their WNBA finals went up against NFL programming. They have to end that on Sundays. They have to end that. Yeah. The other thing too, the NBA is already discussing. Hey, let's now capitalize on what was the 3-point shooting contest with Steph Curry and UNESCO. They'll do that now, maybe times 2, with adding Klay Thompson and now Caitlin Clark to the All-Star game for the NBA. The WNBA should embrace that too. They should bring that over and do something similar. Again, there are plenty of options now with the personalities and style and charisma that you want to lean into. And if they get it wrong, they're idiots. This should be foolproof.
Well, in the Angel Reese part of it, you mentioned earlier, with her entering the league at the exact same time.
Yep.
Can we get a Bird versus Magic WNBA edition?
What's weird?
That would be my big question. There's only 12 teams in the WNBA, so they're going to see each other some. Right? I mean, it's not, even if they're not in the same division or however they break it out, they're going to play each other quite a bit.
Did you see that? So you looked up the mock draft yesterday.
I did.
I did, but after last night I was reading through this. The write-up on Angel Reese. I love that
we're now looking at WNBA mock drafts.
Weird. Angel Reese projected to go 7th overall in this draft to, was it Minnesota, I believe?
The Lynx.
But in the description, it said it's unknown if her game translates to the WNBA or not. As whatever expert of the WNBA draft was predicting, I was like, what? I mean, other than Caitlin Clark, she was the most dominant player on Monday night with 17 points, 20 boards. I mean, she showed up too. I don't know how that doesn't translate to women's pro basketball, because everything else does. I mean, to me, it's, again, no-brainer. It's weird that they're automatically saying that.
Something else.
She's choosing to go. She had an extra year if she wanted to stay. And I think this also shows, with name, image, likeness, and whatever the perception is of the WNBA versus staying in college, those sponsors are staying with them, and it's a bigger platform where you get to play professionally, and you don't deal with any of the other stuff that's off the court.
Yeah, they get to keep and it's legit sponsorship. It's not just pay for play like you see in football and men's basketball.
And a chance to gain more.
Yeah, I get that part of it. John McClain made a good point about that yesterday. And there's not as many opportunities for the booster collective to say, okay, we got to have Angel Reese in the women's basketball team, so we're going to pay her a lot of money, more money than we pay the star receiver for the LSU football team. That's not happened yet, I think. Angel Reese makes her money in legitimate sponsorship with companies
or modeling
that are paying for her to promote something on Instagram or whatever it may be.
And there was that weird storyline prior to the season, or right as they were starting the season too, where she wasn't with the team or whatever. There could be some things behind the scenes we don't know about with that too.
So the
3-point shoot, I mean, that's now appointment viewing.
Tell me what's your takeaway is when I run through this top 8, let's say, in the WNBA draft, okay? Something that immediately comes to mind for me.
Yep.
Number 1, Caitlin Clark, no-brainer. Number 2, Cameron Brink from Stanford. Number 3, Rakia Jackson from Tennessee. Number 4, Camila Cardoso from South Carolina. Number 5, Aaliyah Edwards from UConn. 6, Nayadu Puak from Australia. A great game is what I hear. Number 7, Angel Reese from the Minnesota Lynx. Number 8, Alyssa Peely from Utah. And number 9, Georgia Amoore to Dallas.
Chad, I know two of those players
from Virginia Tech. What jumps out to me is not that, unsurprisingly, I don't know many of these players. I've heard some names, but I don't know much about their games.
Right.
The lack of international players in the top 15 of the draft. Camila Cardoso is Brazilian. I do know that, who plays for South Carolina. And then they have a woman from Australia. Now look at the NBA draft.
Yeah.
And like 7 of the top 10 are international players never played in college.
You're speaking Gilbert Arenas' language right now.
I want to say that because I want to reiterate how good women in the United States have it from a sports perspective. Still.
Yeah.
Title IX and opportunity for girls and women in sports is still far better in the United States than over the rest of the world.
Think about NIL.
That's not the case necessarily in men's sports, where men everywhere, if you've got a decent economy in your country, you're going to have solid opportunities to play sports.
Sometimes more investment, just based on when you're strictly training for that. Think about soccer internationally.
Yeah. And I bet this is a high number. I'm looking at 2 women. One played at South Carolina, but in the first round, that are quote-unquote international players. So to me, that hammers home that point about it's a good time to be involved in women's sports in the U.S. And girls and women in the United States, they got it pretty good when it comes to sporting opportunities because of Title IX.
And what does it mean?
And I think we're seeing that, and now it's starting to kind of return the favor to offer up something that a lot of people in America are paying attention to, like I compared it to before, the 99 Women's World Cup that spawned a revolution in girls soccer and women's soccer in the U.S. Are we witnessing the second revolution right now?
Well, and also the WNBA Players Association is going to have it good, because the average salary last season, just average player, $147,000 for the season. That's going up just based on Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese coming into the league. So if you
would hope.
I mean, it can't go down.
No.
You know, and it's gone up several $1,000s recently anyway. Ratings are going up. They're up 21% from last year anyway. So they've seen the ratings increase. The season prior from 23 to 22. 21% increase. So that's only going up as well. And they're negotiating this new media rights deal. It's perfect timing for them overall. And what's the value now? You know, they think they can get more taking a step outside of the NBA media rights negotiation with ESPN. They think they'll get more. Then probably so.
I think WNBA is going to simply take Caitlin Clark's ratings in this game against Angel Reese, present that to whoever's going to buy the rights, and say, this is what you're going to get.
What about the NBA?
I'm not so sure that's the case.
What about the NBA giving them a bigger portion of whatever the rights would be, whatever the percentage is, because they want to keep the WNBA under their umbrella now? But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's fascinating to watch and how quickly it's changed.
And is there an Apple with MLS type partnership with WNBA if Caitlin Clark's involved? Is there a streamer that's going to get involved that's also got a ton of money?
The NBA has HBO Max right now.
Yeah.
With TNT
with
and
Bleacher
Turner.
Report and everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's already there.
I don't know what the future holds. I'm still reluctant to say that it's going to completely cross over to WNBA interest, but it's been a boom for women's college basketball, and I'm sure they're hoping it continues.
Chad, what will continue, I believe, in college athletics is the teams that are just in the locker room during the national anthem. If you watch college football, if you go to a college football game, by and large, when the anthem is played, the teams are in the locker room about to be told they can run out through the tunnel. That's certainly the case for the LSU Tigers, for instance. The same goes for the women's basketball program that went into the locker room prior to the anthem being played. And you have the Governor, Jeff Landry of Louisiana, saying that scholarships should be pulled down if you're not out for the anthem. And the anthem police are on full alert now, given the fact that Iowa was there, LSU was not there. Kim Mulkey saying that, hey, we were actually in the locker room making last-minute discussions and giving last-minute notes on what we want to do. And we had a team prayer. Praying. And she said, I don't even know when the anthem is actually played because that's their routine, is they're in the locker room. And in many cases in college athletics, just think back to the whole Kaepernick kneeling, the whole saga with the NFL. Compare it to what the college football was doing. They were already, prior to any of that,
Not on the field.
Not on the field, because you had the band performance and everything else. Then you have the anthem. Then you have all the pageantry of what is a home football game on your college campus where your team runs out. That's also the case for LSU. And with the governor, Jeff Landry, tweeting this out in response to learning all of this. My mother coached women's high school basketball during the height of desegregation. No one has greater respect for the sport and for Coach Mulkey. However, above respect for that game is a deeper respect for those who serve and protect us and unite us under one flag. It's time that all college boards, including Regent, put a policy in place that student athletes be present for the national anthem or risk their athletic scholarship. This is a matter of respect that all collegiate coaches should instill. That from Governor Landry. That's just not going to be the case. The teams are going to continue to go through whatever their regimen is. And, I mean, think about what this would lead to given where we are and what we've seen if they're forced to do whatever this is on the court, which Chad and I, we're going to stand with attention to the flag with a hand over our heart every single time, with our hats off, as one would do as an American. But the things that are brought up by just reading this and knowing that on any given Saturday, you could have this tweet and knowing that it's, some controversy because, again, it's Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and what this game was. And also, Chad, the fact that, if you think about this from in the actual arena, and how many people are milling about in the concourse, whatever this is going on to. Just the average person, or you're in the restroom and you can hear the anthem playing. There are plenty of people that aren't in their seat, whatever this is going on.
Of course.
That's what makes this just such a play for attention to me, more than anything.
It's so mind-numbingly stupid. We stand at attention for and with respect for the national anthem, because it's the right thing to do. Okay, that's what Hutton's saying. We'll do that at a sporting event, anywhere we are. You
wherever
stand,
we are.
Yeah, you stop and you honor the flag. I am all for this. I'm also all for, especially elected officials, trying to use like we're showing honor and respect. Show intelligence in some sort of sense before tweeting something out like this from Jeff Landry, who I have no idea. It's like he just saw from the corner of his eye the glimpse of some sort of made-up controversy about LSU not being on the court and decided to tweet something out. I think social media and the access to elected officials to have social media is damning. And it shows a lack of intelligence, and that a lot of people who are elected to high public office, like the governor of Louisiana, is no smarter than you or me. Me hosting the show, you watching it, you listening to it right now, Hutton, anyone in this studio. Everyone in this studio, I will tell you right now, is smarter than the governor of Louisiana, because no one in this studio is dumb enough to say that the regents or whoever it is at universities should put a rule in place that you have to be on the playing surface honoring the flag or you risk losing your scholarship. This is paint by numbers political stupidity. It's all it is. Well, let's get all the key points here. It's like writing a country song. Wife left me. God, booze. What is it? Troops, flag,
trucks,
standing at attention, lack of respect. Oh, I saw this over here. Let's write about it and say they need to do something. And the problem with it is this stupid ass story is going to go away in about 15 minutes. And Governor Landry is going to continue to go about his business and be the governor of Louisiana, and no one's going to cover it anymore, and he's not going to be asked to follow up about it. So here's what he accomplished. He played to his base. He played the troops card. He played the respect for the anthem and the flag card. He did all of that. He said, screw you, you ugly LSU players, and disrespecting our flag. I stand for the flag. I stand for this. All of his supporters are standing and applauding now. And then sensible people are looking around saying, you're an idiot. You're a complete idiot. They're praying in the locker room. They haven't been on the court for one national anthem all year. It would have taken you 15 seconds to ask someone a simple question before posting this on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. Some of the height of stupidity is paint by numbers BS when it comes to stuff like this. I wish politicians at times would have he wants scholarships revoked. I want social media privileges revoked when I see something this stupid from the highest elected official in the state of Louisiana about the state institution. This is so dumb, and it's a waste of time. They were not intentionally disrespecting the flag or the anthem. They were doing pregame routines and praying. So dumb.
Well, and the routine of this, like the assumption that it's intentional. What's intentional is Mulkey said, hey, we have a routine where we're warming up, and at the 12-minute mark, we're off the floor. We're back in the locker room. With 28 minutes to go until kickoff, NFL teams, they go to the locker room. And then you have all the pregame hype or whatever they're doing in the NFL stadium. Then they come back out, and they're out there for the anthem. They're out there right before kickoff for the anthem, because that's when, guess what? That's when the networks have it timed out to go to a quick preview of the game. Then they take a commercial of about 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and that's when the anthem is played. And then you have kickoff at 12:02 Central. I mean, it's timed out. In this case, my guess is the anthem's played earlier. And like Mulkey, who I believe her when she said, I don't even know when it actually played because we're in the locker room like we are for every game. I think the assumption was, going back to social media, you see something and you think, oh, they did this intentionally for this game, right? And it's just, again, stupidity.
Well, I mean, Iowa being out there and they weren't, the immediate assumption was, well, Iowa loves America. LSU hates it.
But
it's pretty clear to see right here. Look at them out there standing in respect.
If you want to be out there and it'd say,
of course,
it's something that you're doing, whatever. But look around.
Do you know who understands this? People who know sports.
Well,
people who know
Jeff
that
Landry,
different teams have different routines and everything else.
If he's giving a speech, and who's behind the scenes in the corridors of whatever arena he's giving a speech in, what are they doing during the anthem?
Yeah,
right?
Kick him out of your rally.
What are they doing?
Your next
Anthem
fundraiser,
police on full alert.
Kick them out of the fundraiser if they're back wandering around, coming out of the bathroom during the anthem.
If the anthem's being played and you're there, stand at attention because you're an American and that's the right thing to do. Yes, you're honoring your country and those who have served. Yes, and everything it stands for. As an individual, if you're in the restroom of an arena at a sporting event where primarily the anthem is played, it's pretty much the only spot that you hear it on a routine basis. What are you doing? Are you rushing out there to make sure that you stand to attention for the flag? Or are you going to stand in the hot dog line? That way you don't miss kickoff.
You holding up the stall?
That way you don't miss kickoff.
Attention?
Right.
It's so stupid. Anyone who understands sports and routine and the way locker room time works and warm-up time and all that understands that this was not intentional. Kim Mulkey said right after the game, I didn't even know when the anthem was being played. It's what we've done every game this year. This is our routine when we're back doing our last-minute preparations and praying. It's so paint by numbers stupidity, and I'm sad that people fall for it. I really am sad for people that fall for it.
Yeah. Chad, are we sad for the Buffalo Bills? Because, man,
I'm pretty sad for them, honestly.
How?
I mean, just to answer your question, Hutton, they have to live in Buffalo. They're freezing their balls off 10 months out of the year.
Think about what
July
they do
and August is pretty nice.
Not for long,
everything else is bad.
They're getting a stadium,
and they don't have a title. You know, if they had one Super Bowl, one of those four, I would feel less bad for them. But knowing all these factors now, knowing that to get themselves charged up for a game in the freezing cold, they have to hurl themselves through tables, completely piss drunk, I do feel bad for them. Yes.
Well, I do too.
You asked a question, I answered
I do too, man, because look at what they...
And now they have another reason to feel bad.
Man, I mean, look at the hype and deserved status of where they were. I mean, the NFL changed the damn rule for them for overtime when we had the Mahomes-Allen showdown in overtime because we didn't see Josh Allen get the football. And it was more about what the Bills were about to do the following season than what we were seeing in the loss in real time. Quite honestly, it's the first time we've actually seen a loss. It's been so great that both teams win. The Bills won that day too.
Yeah.
But think about this. Since then, they've underachieved. Josh Allen has been known for being a guy who's throwing a lot of interceptions, but also a lot of touchdowns, solid passer rating, but has not achieved that elite status of the Patrick Mahomes showdown, right? They win in the regular season, not in the postseason. They've then restructured and handed Diggs big money. And Stephon Diggs today traded to the Houston Texans less than a year after we saw this weird story during minicamp about whether or not he was there in the building. He was not at the mandatory minicamp. And then you had McDermott come out and say, oh, yeah, he's here. Weird. And Josh Allen trying to smooth things over. Something was definitely up there.
Oh, yeah.
We've asked Donovan McNabb about this at the Super Bowl, and he gave a great answer about, where there's smoke, there's fire, and let me give you examples of my career. They view Stephon Diggs as wearing out his welcome. He had worn out his welcome for whatever reason after deciding to give him money and pay him like a superstar wide receiver, which he has been. Every season, over 100 catches. Every season, over 1,100 yards. But yet they trade him for draft picks, not this year, but for next year. Second-round pick next year to the Houston Texans, who are loading up. The Houston Texans, if you didn't know it already, they are the Detroit Lions of last offseason. They're going to be all the rage. They have the rookie quarterback going into year 2. They have money to spend. They've been spending it. They've drafted extremely well. They have a young wide receiving core that just got extremely better with who they've added now in Diggs, who produces on a very regular basis. You can count on him when he's getting the football. Got to keep him happy, but that's how the diva wide receivers act. And when those guys normally call out that they want the football, they get the football. That goes across the league. But the Bills now, who have had to part ways with a number of starters due to the salary cap and trying to stay under that that threshold, now we'll designate a post-June 1st trade for Stephon Diggs to the Houston Texans, and they're going to take a $31 million dead cap hit this year just to load up and take everything straight on and get ready for 2025. If you didn't know that the Bills aren't going to be much of a threat, now you do. And this is happening right after, a couple of seasons after they pay Josh Allen, and he's in his prime. And Sean McDermott, by the way, already on the hot seat. Just read the columns prior to last season's kickoff. I mean, I don't like firing a guy a year out, but, man, not only is this happening, they could have a new head coach at this time next year. And they're selling PSLs. They're having a new stadium built. And now who's throwing the football to they got Josh Allen. Who's he throwing the football to? They've had free agents depart to especially on offense. What's going to happen with Buffalo? Well, they're moving on back not because of the quarterback, not because of controversy, because they've made wrong moves and decided to part ways with who is a very good player in the NFL.
I think your Lions comparison is an interesting one. The Lions were so close, had the lead in the NFC Championship game to getting to a Super Bowl, so they were right there. I believe the Texans, this is not, I don't think it's speaking out of turn. The goal is to win a Super Bowl in C.J. Stroud's rookie contract. While they have him under the rookie contract before the big money, they've got a 3-year window, let's say 3-4-year window now, where they're going for broke. They're going to try to win a Super Bowl. And I see a team this year, they won a playoff game a year ago. I see a team this year that could very well do that.
They're in contention.
With the roster that they've built in a short amount of time, and now with Stephon Diggs, they are a Super Bowl contender. And that sounds crazy, when people hear, oh, Mahomes, and look at some of the powerhouse in the NFC. Look at the Texans roster and how quickly D'Amico Ryans turned it around with a superstar rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud. And look how they've supplemented that roster, added to it, not just supplemental players, key players, really good players, and then some contributors that are going to help as well. Looking at this year's draft, seeing what they're going to do with this one also, to me the goal is very simple, and that is win it while you have C.J. Stroud under his rookie contract.
Well, and think about with the young receivers, with Nico Collins, Tank Dell, they added Robert Woods last offseason. He's now just a role player, considering who they have now adding Diggs. They have Joe Mixon now in the backfield. Dalton Schultz is back at tight end. Damian Pierce is still there, of course, in the backfield too.
Will Anderson, a superstar as a rookie.
On defense. Yeah, they add Danico Autry. They have Daniil Hunter now up front on the defensive line.
Danico Autry, very underrated.
Yes.
Great NFL defensive lineman.
Yes. They have plenty of pieces in place that were there, that they were building and drafting well. And Nick Caserio, just a quick note on him. Wasn't that long ago that he was apparently on the phone trying to demand things during the game. Remember this?
Yeah.
Like he was trying to play coach and GM.
He was calling down.
He's been calling the shots on these drafts and
doing a pretty good job.
He's put together, and they got the quarterback thing right.
Pretty
they
good.
Got the quarterback deal right.